Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. I've lived abroad for 25 years and in 114 countries. And I'm going to talk about my personal trauma and the adventure into recovery from those personal traumas. But first things first, everybody wants to say they have a trauma, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to tell you my traumas. And because the first secret to getting over a trauma is to own that trauma. Okay, so this is my Andy Lee Graham's list of emotional traumas. Okay, so bear with me, be kind, realize that if you start making snarky remarks on the live part, right now what I'm making is I'm live. Okay, so if you make a snarky remark, I will remove you from my life, okay? I have zero, this is part about recovery is being self-defense. Okay. But this is about how to recover from trauma. And everybody has trauma. I don't care. I finally learned, it was kind of humorous. When I first got got pushed up, went to jail on drinking and driving or whatever, I thought I was the only one, right? Everybody else was normal. They are all okay and I'm not okay, right? But trauma is a comparison. And I want you to always realize that. A billionaire can have a trauma. Okay, it's a comparison of one part of his life to another part. Suddenly, he loses $2 billion. It's a trauma, okay? It's, he worked hard for that. But, losing your job, getting divorced. The number one trauma, I think, in life is the loss of love, okay? And having a marriage fail, okay? When you make a commitment till death do you part, and it doesn't work out, that's a failure. And if you call it anything less than that, to me, it's a travesty. It's a problem of recovering from that marriage. Okay, but I will try to repeat this phrase over and over. Staying busy is the absolute worst way to deal with trauma. Staying busy. That means the trauma still exists. The mental, emotional, physical, blah, 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 is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. Okay? It's just basically being a landmine. You managed it. You didn't talk about it. Sometimes you do have to shut up, grow up, and listen up, right? Listen up, shut up, and grow up. Sometimes that's just what you need on small traumas, right? But if you have a major trauma like the death of your family, your child, maybe the worst one would be a child dying. I think that no child, that's a very horrible trauma. But everybody has a trauma, whether it's cancer, I don't know. There's just a list of them. I was trying to list them out, but I'm having a lot of interesting time with AI because it's really good at creating a list, a bulleted list. But I would like you to help you to deal with trauma. But the only way that I can prove to you that I have any knowledge of it is by talking about real traumas I have and how I dealt with them. Okay? And that's where personal testimonies are really good in a way. When you're trying to help somebody, you say what happened to me, and you don't talk about them, okay? Because talking about them is like an accusatory thing, accusing them of blah, blah, blah. And you don't want to but you do want to simplify and try to get them to say, I have this problem. And this is kind of fun because the other day a guy that had a lot of alcohol problems I said, do you have any emotional problems? No. But you said you got PTSD, I can never say the thing. And I go, that's obviously an emotional problem, right? Post-traumatic syndrome, trauma syndrome. I'm dyslexic. I cannot remember abbreviations well. There are certain things, and that's a trauma of mine, a minor one, right? Because people make fun of me because I can't remember certain things and I miss words. So there's hundreds of traumas everybody has, many micro ones and major ones. But the major ones are easy to find because but one of the greatest things I've ever heard was you're only as sick as your secrets. You're only as sick as your secrets. So any secret that you have, to me, is a sickness. It's an inability it's denial. Basically, I'm in denial, I have a problem, and I'm going to hide them, okay? Okay, but we should say we are only as sick as our secrets. because we're all full of secrets, okay? But any secret that you keep and harbor is like a little landmine. Somebody might discover the secrets. And one of the things about discovering secrets is when you discover somebody's secret, they avoid you for almost the rest of their life. I will try not to cry today. And be grateful that I can cry, because that means I am not a psychopath or sociopath. But I am not a victim. I did everything, and essentially everything that happened in my life was because of my personal decisions, okay? Don't get me wrong, people did things to me, but how I dealt with it was my choice. I am not a victim, and I'm not wanting sympathy here. That's for losers. Losers want sympathy, and they want to be a victim. Losers, they are not even caring about this. They're trying to abuse you by being a victim. They're trying to take advantage of your goodwill to hurt you. Okay, they're trying to be a victim, blah, blah, blah. Anybody that says, blames it on somebody else, you got to blame your life on your own life. You got to construct your own life, okay? I take 100% responsibility for losing my driver's license for 10 years, and they gave it back after 6, really. And then being on house arrest for a year, becoming an alcoholic. It's all my fault. Yo soy culpa. Okay. I think in Spanish, everyone. Run. If you meet somebody that says they're a victim of something and they start rambling on it more and more and more. I mean, saying you one time is okay. Saying it 100 times when it just happened is okay. Okay, but saying it 5 years afterwards, run. Okay, they want sympathy. Oh man, heard what I said. I got voice typing on my phone, and sometimes it just listens to what I'm saying and starts doing it. But one of the biggest traumas that happened to me, and I want to get this right off the bat, one of the biggest traumas that happened to me in the last month or two, 3 months ago or something like that, is I had to take money from my family. Over the course of the last 6 months, I took probably $10,000, $13,000 US dollars from my family to try to live and try to maintain and dig. And this is really a very spiritual problem for me, because for 25 years I have been crystal clean on my financial state, right? I had very big problems like 37 years ago. And suddenly I did everything right. I fixed my credit. I did everything right. And suddenly after 30 years, I had to ask for help money-wise. And this is what was one of the culminating reasons why I shut down Everyday Hobo, is because I wasn't going to hurt my sisters or myself more for the sake of being like a victim to these guys that were evil, right? And there's too much evil on that website. And when you are part of evil, you have to walk away. Any way you do it, when something is evil, if you feel like you're around evil, the best thing to do is turn the other cheek and walk away. Even if there is no God, you still do that. You don't become part of that evil by arguing with it, right? But the biggest trauma I've had recently is this closing down a business where I put $750,000 of my money into it. Okay, then I'm getting attacked by everybody. But asking for money is the biggest trauma I've had recently. And because why? I did everything right for 25 years of travel. I just had a great world. And suddenly I went back to the state where I don't have any money. And my whole future income, all the dreams I've had for 25 years, is making a lot of money with this website. So I lost it. But that's fine. But it was sad because everybody thinks, Andy. I don't care. I lost 20, 150 times more than anybody else. Okay. But I want you to judge me by my traumas, and I want you to say, is Andy, so all the way through this video, I want you to say, is Andy capable of being honest? Is he capable of addressing his problems? Is he working on these situations? Okay, because the way you deal with a trauma is you first own it, you admit it, and then you don't accept it immediately. You can't just jump to acceptance. That's just stupid. Okay, there is no way you accept something in 1 minute. You have to sort of basically think it through. Okay, so you think through that trauma until you put all the little pieces away. Okay, but I want you to address, is Andy living a productive, spiritually good, emotional, honest, respectable life? That's what you want to do. You want to be a respectable person that is a good person, okay? And very few, not everybody has that goal, okay? They don't really want to be a respectable person. They want to see what they can get away with. But there is 10 to 20% of the population that would like to to be a person of respect. And a good friend is somebody that the more you know them, the more you respect them. But I want you to wade through all these traumas. I'm going to laughing. I keep thinking about writing a novel. I started this, oh man, I was probably 21 when I thought about this. Writing a novel called When the Strong Man Stumbles. And you see this like right now with Donald Trump or Elon Musk. They do one thing, or even Joe Biden. Joe Biden is old and he's stumbling all the time. And what do people do? They kick him. Okay, he needs to be kicked, because why does Joe Biden need kicked? He needs to give up and go do something else. When you stumble, you have to somehow admit that it's not working anymore. But when a strong man stumbles, everybody jumps on. I'll never forget this guy in Indiana saying, Donald Trump filed bankruptcy. I said, I can only imagine having one bankruptcy out of 500 businesses. I mean, 80% of businesses go broke in the first 5 to 8 years, right? Okay, but that's not the point. Here's a quote I tried to make. I tried to make a quote to try to very simply say it. It's kind of a Nietzsche thing. 99% of people believe they are emotionally stable. And 99% of the time, I can find an anger trigger in minutes of meeting them. I have people that just act like, my life is great. And I go, you got a landmine of emotional things. All I got to do is say one word and boom, you're explosive. And I don't like to be around them, because it's a landmine, right? You might step on it. And I mean, they will warn you in a way. I got to, skip ads. Okay. So 99% of people believe, and I really do want you to believe that you are emotionally stable, because what you say in life is who you become. Okay, but to also have this part where you say, these are my traumas. I would like everybody to list out their traumas, own them, and then try to find safe people to talk with them. Not very many people are safe. Okay, if a person never raises their voice, never smiles, feels any guilt, shame, or remorse. This is from Dr. Ruff in my treatment center for alcoholism. If they can't obey an ultimatum, run. He says, Andy, if you give an ultimatum to your girlfriend, like, I am not going to put up with this, and she acts like, screw you, whatever, right? Run, because that's a trauma, that's a refusal to ever obey anybody. And it's one of the worst possible things in an element of a person possible. We all have ultimatums. You got to show up to work on time. That's an ultimatum, right? You're going to get fired if you don't do this. But if they will not say they're sorry too, is kind of, you got to run. But run from anybody that never feels guilt, shame. You can say anything you want to them and they just act like that. They're probably a psychopath, sociopath. I just got rid of one of my friends, said, I think he's a sociopath. They can be really, really friendly sociopaths. It's not like they have to be evil to be a sociopath. Okay, here's trauma defined. Trauma refers to an emotional, psychological, or physical response to an event or a series of events that is distressing or harmful. So something happened, and you emotionally dealt with it. Now, they act like you have a physical result of trauma, but everything physical is also emotional. It's not hard to deal with the physical stuff. It's really hard to deal with the emotional impact of breaking a leg or, having cancer or any of these things, right? It's very difficult. Okay, trauma, symptoms of traumas. I'm going to go into my personal traumas, which is down in this list, and anybody that wants to can read this list. I'll put this list in the notes in the description. And I don't have a website anymore, so I just put them in Google Docs and I make it available to anybody. You don't have to join or whatever thing. I just put it in the live. And any of you guys reading live, if you want to interrupt, it's a super chat world. Okay. Symptoms of traumas. Repeating of words. Anybody that repeats words like certain phrases over and over and over, that's kind of a resentment, a refilling of something, to refeel. In Alcoholics Anonymous, the biggest danger you ever have is a resentment. A resentment is the thing that gets people drunk. Repeating the same story. A lot of old people do this, and they're not traumatized, but they want to repeat the story from years ago. It's the only way they're going to remember. Avoidance. I have trouble balancing a checkbook. I had so many financial problems that the minute I start dealing with a bunch of numbers, sometimes I can get really upset. I avoid it. I pay accountants, bookkeepers to do anything to basically let them do it correctly because I want it done correctly. I am insane. Okay, you become triggers. Like for me, one of my things is I'm insanely capable of mental violence because it's the only thing that protects me sometimes from people attacking my thing. Trigger words. There's trigger words that a person that has trigger words has trauma. You can trigger them. Boom. Say two phrases, they're mad. Flashbacks. That's kind of a advanced. That's like a military guy having flashbacks or nightmares. Anxiety, panic attacks. I mean, panic attacks are real, and some people have them really bad. Thinking about suicide, actually, doing suicide. I used to sit on this couch, drinking beer, and I was looking up at the roof, and I was going to take a hammer and go into the roof, get to the joist, take a extension cord, because those were the easy things to get a hold of, and I was going to tie it around, stand on the corner of the couch, and jump. That's how I was going to kill myself. I had it very specifically. I knew exactly how I was going. And if you study suicide, the better the plan, the more likely they are to do it. Now that was 37 years ago. And don't get me wrong, suicide is like a reoccurring thing. It's not like you just stop thinking about suicide. The first time I thought about it, I put a shotgun in my mouth, and I was in Bloomington, Indiana, and I had a broken femur and whatever. So suicide is really depression. Depression is more of a long-term chronic thing. I go up and down melancholy. I can have depressing months, but difficulty trusting others is a very common form of trauma. I mean, there's people that don't trust anybody. They're anonymous. The whole world's after them. They don't want to ever say, they do nothing on the internet that's ever honest. That is a traumatized person. Okay, you have physical trauma. So I'm going to go now through my laundry list of traumas. Oh my gosh, it's too long. But understand, the reason why I'm doing this is I want you to understand that when I start talking about trauma, I actually do have a methodology or a way to resolve traumas, okay? I have very specific things I do when I have a trauma. I mean, maybe the first one would be avoidance. I avoid anybody that could hit the triggers of that trauma. So like when I closed down Everyday Hobo, I shut off anybody's ability to contact me. Why? I don't need them telling me their traumas to provoke me, right? And that's what they wanted to do. They wanted revenge, okay? Okay, but the first trauma, I'm going to just list these, and there's 30 traumas at the bottom of this list, and they basically list them out. And they're kind of categories. There's thousands of traumas, but they're categories of traumas, and I'm trying to work through, because everybody thinks I have no traumas. And I go, that means gag, right? You make me gag. Everybody has a trauma. I don't think I met anybody in my life that didn't have a trauma. I was always amazed. But I had a physical trauma, physical meaning body. I broke my femur when I was age 23, so I went to, or 21. I went from this incredibly handsome guy at Indiana University to this guy that was walking around with crutches and atrophy, right? And I walked around on crutches for almost a year. So I went from the guy that could high jump 6 foot, pole vault, to a center on the foot. I was a linebacker, to a guy that had to depend on people. I'll never forget this guy. I had to use a bedpan. He got really mad. He was one of my roommates because I said, "What do you want me to do, Dan? I'm pulling myself around on the carpet, right?" I said, it is cruel. The cruelty is what comes out, right? And when you get in trauma, so 21 years, and then I broke my tibia a couple years ago, which is a physical thing. And I've had, you might say, alcoholism is a physical trauma, but I'm not going to go. Okay, they use one of the topics as emotional trauma, and I'm just going to list this out. This is sort of silly. Okay, every trauma is emotions. Okay, there is no such thing as having an emotional trauma. I mean, a physical or marriage. It's always how we deal with it emotionally. Trauma is like putting a nail in your chest and you can't get it out. Okay, so you go, and it doesn't leave, right? That's trauma. Trauma stays in your brain. They're little nails, and they never really disappear. You just keep making them go down further where they basically no longer bother you. So I can say that I'm a recovering alcoholic because I don't care. And I was on house arrest, and I lost my license for 10 years. I don't care if you know that. Why would I care? I have forgiven myself. I haven't been forgiven by other people, don't get me wrong. But I have forgiven myself, and I'm kind of proud of the fact that, yeah, Andy's survived. Sexual trauma. Okay, here's a horrible one. I hate to admit it, but when I was like 18, 19, and I went to Indiana University, I was constantly, suddenly barraged by these gay guys. And they were abusive. I mean, I'd walk through the commons and they'd be whistling at me. I looked like I was 16 when I was 19, right? I was incredibly handsome, and it was horrible. And I'm like, what do you do when you get hit on by a gay guy? This is what women feel when men hit on them. Endlessly, right? It's like, how do I deal with this? How do I emotionally deal with a woman hit? I mean, but men get hit on by gay guys. I think there's a bunch of gay guys at the Sublime. I'm laughing here. We went to the Sublime last night. But never stop getting hit on by gay. But I have 3 or 4 friends that were very gay. One was really kind of thing. Wally, which was one of my best friends, was really fat. He's like 350 pounds at Indiana University. He's one of the smartest person I ever met in my life. And a lot of the gay friends know that I want to talk to very intelligent people. So that's one of their ploys to try to get into your brain. But, I don't care because I just really don't see that kind of sex as being beneficial to the world, okay? I think marriage is the best thing. Too many sexual relationships. I've had too many. There's a number on this thing, right? It's over 500, at least. And that means, my mother doesn't want to know that because my father had a lot of affairs. And if you want to hurt my mother, it's the idea of a man having sexual relationships with another woman. And probably whatever this trauma is in me, whatever the problem that I have, all these, it has to do with my father's affairs and my mother's dealing with it. I don't really understand. But I have in the last 5 years greatly decreased the number of casual. I've never really had that much casual sex, I guess in university, but at a certain point I realized I should only date women that I want to marry. Okay, childhood trauma. Everybody's got one of these. Their father talked to them, they screamed at them, their preacher. My friend Mike had a trauma from the nuns at the Catholic Church. And I said, Mike, you're not angry at God, you're angry at the nuns. Stop being angry at God and stop complaining about God. You're complaining about the nuns, the real offenders. But my father had many affairs, and he's dead now. And my mother would make me go with my father when he was saying he was going to go to like a union meeting because he was really going to go have an affair, and I was supposed to do it. I remember sitting outside. I know when he went in to have sex with a woman, right? And I was enmeshed in this crazy crap, right? But I one time sit at the door and said, Dad, don't come back. I'm going to take care of Mom. So one of my traumas is if I get around a woman that needs saved, it's just like my mom. Okay. So my dad learned his lesson finally after about 10 years when my mother drew the line, okay? But legal grief. I had 3 or 4 drunk drivings, 1 public intox. I didn't spend 30 days in jail. I should change that. I spent 21 days in jail in Bloomington, Indiana. I spent 5 days jail in Brown County, Indiana. And this was, I was an Indiana University college student at the time. And getting arrested for drunk driving and going into jail when you're a college student, comparison to everybody around you, you're like a loser, right? So remember that comparison thing, because some people want to act like certain rich people have no stress. It's a comparison of the thing. I was at Indiana University. When I first went to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was 21 years old. Everybody in there was smoking, drinking. I didn't even feel like they were similar to me, and they were very, very rude. Okay, because you're the rich college kid. Hey, college kid. Hey, college kid. I spent 1 year on house arrest. That means I had to stay home. Anytime the phone rang, I had to do it. They'd come, these 3 really cruel black guys would come and make me piss. And I said, guys, why are you coming as a team? You only need one to check on me at 3 o'clock in the morning. You just want to be abusive. Okay. But you couldn't argue back. You couldn't say anything. You learned to keep your mouth closed. I went 5 or 6 years of driving without, not driving, but riding a moped. Driving without a license. That's a bad sentence. I'm dyslexic. I should change this. 5 or 6 years driving a moped. And after 5 years and a 10-year, when they take away your license for 10 years in the state of Indiana, they kind of give you away. One of the great things about prison or legal system is it's very, very forgiving. Okay, if you can show that you are doing something, they forgive you. But after 5 or 6 years, my sister told her husband that was an attorney, don't come home until my brother has a driver's license. Because I couldn't get anybody to help me, right? Okay, but 5 or 6 years of public shame. The mayor of Fort Wayne one time talked to me, and I drove up with him on a moped, and he says, Andy, I'm talking to you because I have a lot of respect for you. He said, you are dealing with your issue, and you don't make it everybody else's issue. Okay, the social shame, that's the next, there's like 30 categories at the bottom of this. Riding a moped, walking on crutches after you went from being a high jumper, a guy that could jump 6 feet high, pole vault, basically extremely handsome to a 0, okay? The shame of being bull-legged. Right now I have a really problem because of my broken femur, I'm now becoming bull-legged. I went to this Sublime bar last night, and I put on long pants because I'm ashamed of my bull legs, and I need a new femur, and I don't know what to do, right? I mean, I'm 65 plus, and what do? My body is deformed, okay? And it's the result, and it really is a result of bad doctor problem, okay? Loss and grief. My mother and father dying was really good. I went on a fast for 21 days after my mother died. because my father was not so traumatic, because I really guess I didn't have emotional dependency on him. But you have different types of dependency: codependent, just interdependent, and but I was emotionally dependent on my mother as much as a lot of men are dependent on their wife, or the wife's dependent on her husband, as they should be. They should be interdependent. A loss of love. I've lost Charlene, which is not here. I should add that. Charlene, these are girls that broke my heart. And it's made it hard to trust women, right? Charlene, Judy, Yvonne, Ba, Debbie, and this skinny girl, I can't remember her name. She just dumped me after one day. I mean, I met her father. She says, "I love you more than anybody." And from that day on, she never talked to me again in her life. Oh my God, I lost like 20 pounds. Okay, cultural trauma. Okay, this is kind of hilarious, but getting attacked by Eurotrash and British people, I call them my mean older brother, for the first 2 or 4 years of travel was really a thing. I had no idea that there was countries out there that hated the United States. And they still do it, but now I wear a flag and I have all these repellents, right? And if a guy walks up, a guy or a girl walks up and they say they have a problem with the United States, I go do something else, okay? Because to be somebody's country is anal. You're born in that country, you really didn't have a choice about it. Love your country, okay? But this was really traumatic for the first 2 or 3 years, because I was trying to emotionally deal with these very, very violent, angry assholes. And you're going, you want to be angry at another country? Talk about highly dysfunctional people. Being angry at the United States is dysfunctional. You can't even change it. My friend Watt used to complain about the government. I said, there's nobody to blame, Watt. They're all, as a group, being idiots. I said, it's not like you can say this. You can blame the president a lot, but to be angry at Britain, to be angry at, because British have this bad thing of taking the piss. And it's really, they always say, oh, it's just fun. I said, yeah, it's fun for you to abuse me, okay? One of my biggest traumas, I think this is called an identity-based trauma, was Scott, my neighbor, which was a friend of mine, one of my best friends, said this really caused me to change my whole life. I was with a bunch of like 6-year-old kids, and Scott said, Andy's a know-it-all. We don't want to talk to him. And there's like 20, say 10 children. And I had a lot of respect for this guy from Chicago that was really intelligent. And he said, we don't want to talk to Andy because he's a know-it-all. And from that point on, I stopped until really, I don't know, age 22. I stopped exposing any kind of intelligence to anybody. And I hid it, and I still do it. I still hide intelligence because I don't ever try to be very coherent, articulate, too knowledgeable on the thing, because people attack me, and I got really attacked. Mrs. Grable said I was a bad person. I always want to thank Mrs. Grable, because Mrs. Grable said I was a bad person. She traumatized me. I got a spanking from my father with a ping pong paddle. And I go, all I did is ask questions. And so I stopped asking questions in school, never cared again for teachers, and all I did was read books. I got all my education from books. I became an autodidact, a self-think. So thank you, Mrs. Grable, for being a jerk. I really loved this woman. She was really, really thinking. I just would go up to her desk and sit there and ask a question. So I get spanked because I did it, right? They shouldn't have dealt with it that way. Financial trauma. I filed bankruptcy about 2 years after I got sober, when I finally gave up. I had about 400 creditors, and you file bankruptcy because everybody is calling you. They come over to your house. They try to insult you. They beat you. They want to threaten you. They physically threaten you. They attack in every possible legal way, and it's nuts. Okay, I was attacked by the IRS. I had to pay $10,000 to the IRS, for I have no idea why. she kept saying I was fighting. I told my accountant, I said, this woman is evil. I want to hurt her. I am not going to talk to her again. I said, I want to hurt this person. And she came up with a number, $10,000. I paid it, and I got back on with my life. I just lost $750 to $100 million in a business that I considered worth $5 million. What am I supposed to do? COVID put us out of business. hobotraveler.com. I had to deal with unbelievable amounts of idiots. Okay, long time ago when I first got sober the first time, I was sober for 3 years, then I got drunk. I stayed drunk for about 4 or 5 months. Then I got sober again for 37 years. So in the last 40 years, I've only drank about 3 months of my life. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything like that. I'm not going to do marijuana. But I had to live on $2 to $5 a day when I first got sober the first time. I needed a pause. So I lived up in this guy's attic. I really appreciate this guy. He let me live up in the attic if I'd mow the lawn. And it was summer, and I was in Midland, Michigan, and I would go to the beach and I'd collect cans. And in Michigan, they had a 10-cent thing, and I basically could collect, if I stayed to the beach until everybody left, I could go collect enough cans, aluminum cans, where I could get about $2. And so I lived on this for about almost a year. And then when I was on house arrest, I went back to it. So for about a whole year on house arrest, I lived on roughly $2 or $3 a day. And it's a social shame, okay? Because you're always around people that want you to spend money like they do. And it's hard. But I will say thank you to Kraft Macaroni and Cheese. They used to be able to buy 4 packs of macaroni and cheese for $1. And I always laugh. I said, poverty, that's macaroni and cheese. Four boxes for thing. And I didn't put milk in it. I didn't have money for milk, right? My mom and dad, when I was on house arrest, would bring me like 4 chicken breasts, frozen, and I would eat them. My mother and father never attacked me. Everybody else did. You lose all your friends. There's very few friends that will stick through you through traumas. Even though you're being sane, like when I was on house arrest, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing anything, but they just were the social stigma of knowing a person with no driver's license, because you're the pariah, okay? Okay, skip ads. Okay. So, educational travel. I'm going through this list because I want you to understand that I emotionally know how to deal with traumas. It's a very, very simple thing if you can get beyond the person's denial or the I stay busy solution, which is just dumb. Staying busy to get over trauma. When I got over my mom's trauma, I stayed in my room and I fasted for 21 days. I was alone with myself thinking about why did God take my mom from me? Educational trauma. I did not graduate from Indiana University. I had like 10 hours to go. I started a business, and you know, a lot of people start Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, there's a lot of people start a business and don't graduate. Bill Gates didn't, I don't think Steve Jobs graduated, but most of mine was alcohol related. I just didn't finish it because of starting a business, and the alcohol was making my business have all sorts of problems. Bullying trauma. The number of people that want to bully another person is unlimited, okay? People get bullied on many different levels all the time. I got bullied first time by Scott for being too smart. I got bullied in high school for being too smart. I didn't talk to anybody in high school really except for Richard Gedney and his girl Teresa Green next to me, because I just exchanged books with them. Then we had a couple teachers that were really nice, but most of the teachers were, you know, like, obey. But I said, but you make me read along Go, Jane, go. And I said, I already read the whole frickin' book. I've been always bullied for being kind of too handsome. When I went into the treatment center, the lady says, oh, so you smile, show your big teeth, and everybody does what you want. And I said, why are you attacking me? I said, I cannot change who I am. And I was like 220 pounds. I'm pretty fat at the time. I was in an alcoholic treatment center, and the first thing the counselor does is try to tear me down, I guess. And I go, hey, I stayed sober for 3 years. She didn't give a shit. She didn't care anything that I'd been sober for 3 years. I said, I lost my mind. My girlfriend was doing cocaine and all this stuff, and I was working as a highly stressful job, and I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I forgot to go to meetings. I thought I was safe. But I still go to meetings. Okay. I've been bullied constantly for 25 years by trolls on the internet. I will have people that will write me an email after this video and try to get me, and I get to hit block them. No, I get to hit spam button, then I get to hit the block button. Because you should never ever in a way let an anonymous person that isn't your friend, anything, get into your brain, okay? We had some really famous trolls, Chuck Wow, Mobo Mac, Wade Mac, and Hobo Traveler, bullied by trolls. We had some severe trolls on Everyday Hobo. They would write me secret emails. You guys were members, but you didn't get all the back end crap, okay? Andrew, my partner, didn't get it. I got it all. And I basically would try to figure out if there was any, because when you point at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back. So I was always trying to learn from these guys, right? Is there something I could do to get this troll to stop being a troll? Because they were hurting other people. And Wade was really a horrible troll. Okay, but Mobile Mac and Chuck Wow. Chuck Wow means masturbate in Thai language. Mobile Mac is a guy that I think is in love with me. He basically, has this sort of thing. Darcy, these guys are crazy, right? Betrayal trauma. Charlene dumped me. Okay, I came back from a trip. I went to Florida, stayed for about a month with Charlene, and we were going to get married. We didn't get married, and then I come back, and she moves back in with her old boyfriend, locks the door, and just life's over. This also happened to this skinny girl that I can't remember her name. Just one day, boom, boom. You're in love with me, I never see him again in my life. Chronic illness. I guess I have alcoholism, which they call a disease. I don't really like to call it a disease. It's like, you act like you just go to a doctor and get it cured. That's not the way it works, okay? Alcoholism is not an event. You don't just get over alcohol by going to a meeting. It's a continual reversal of the thing. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about this is because I got so many people say, well, I quit drinking. I could care less that you quit drinking. You still got the brain, and the drinking is a symptom. I have the website, My Thinking Problem. We say, I have a thinking problem. The symptom is I drink. The symptom could be you overeat, you're stuffing. Fat people that are weighing 450 pounds, they have a thinking problem, okay? When you're a workaholic and you're working 18 hours a day and you're avoiding your family, that's a thinking problem. When you have sex with every girl that you get near, that's a thinking problem. These are the symptoms, okay? But people say, oh, the symptoms stop there. And this is what doctors do right now. They just service the symptom. They don't service the root cause. First thinking cause. Elon Musk talks about first level thinking, basically getting to the bottom. This is really excellent stuff. But I got a gimp in my leg now. It is causing me unbelievable problems just walking down the hill. What happened at age 21, because Dr. Adawi put my leg on wrong and told my mom and dad he put it on perfect shape. I sit there and I looked at the thing when I was 21. I go, this is not straight. This is not perfect. I'm a mechanical genius. But my mom and dad had just went through a trauma. They watched me almost die for 10 days. I didn't do it. I was on morphine, right? I didn't have to deal with it. My sisters, my brothers, everybody had to deal that the brother was dying, and I had a fatty embolism around my heart, and it was like to cause clots to make you die, right? And it's because the fat comes out of the broken bone. And they didn't take and put pins or anything on my leg. They put me in traction for 7 weeks in the hospital. And I went from being a handsome guy to a really ugly guy. And I got a gimp in the leg thing. So right now, I don't know what to do. It's not the Andy I want to be. Okay, so I'm wanting a femur transplant and a knee change out, right? Technology-related trauma. I'm not sure what it. I'm incapable. I never could. I tried for almost 5 years to solve the troll problem on social networks. And right now you see Elon Musk and X actually solving the troll problem. A lot of people like this stuff, okay? But I don't want to be around people that want to hurt people. I don't want to be around people that enjoy hurting somebody else. Okay, that is a bad person. And everybody does it. Don't get me wrong. I've hurt people for sure. I attacked mentally many people, especially before I went into treatment. And my Dr. Roth explained to me that I was being mentally violent. Violence is not physical. Mental violence is what men and women do to each other, people do to each other. It's a premeditated. You got two types. You got reactive violence, and then you've got premeditated. Premeditated is what the real violence is. Interpersonal violence trauma. I had a partner, Dave, that stole my money. We were partners, and he basically kept writing himself checks, and he was stoned and drunk all the time. I just got out of treatment. I basically had to threaten to hurt him. And I'm not going to go into detail on how I threatened him, but it was definitely a serious threat and to stop him, okay? And when you make a serious threat to somebody, it's pretty serious stuff. Prejudice-related trauma. I was too handsome, wide-eyed, blue-eyed. You guys all think that being a 6-foot, blonde, blue-eyed thing is, Roger Daughtry had that song, "Nobody knows what it's like to be sad behind blue eyes." Certain things stop us from having communication with people. Troll. I've been always attacked for being different, okay? So I guess that's, when you don't fit in, it's a trauma, okay? Animal-related traumas, okay? When I was a paper boy, I used to get attacked by dogs. I definitely get nervous when there's dogs around because they attack. And on Lake Athlon, related to dogs, I made a video saying there's 3 problems with Lake Athlon that they need to resolve. 1, there's way too many dogs. Like over in San Pedro and Santa Marcos, they killed 250 dogs in one day because there were so many. And I said, there's too much noise and aggressiveness with the tuk-tuk drivers, these little taxis, and there's too many missionaries. And oh my gosh, I had this Amy woman went crazy on me, and this other guy, she gets on every YouTube thing and basically spends her whole life trying to make every fat old woman hate me. Okay? It's amazing. It's kind of funny though. But it's a trauma because I'm sitting there going, I'm avoiding this lady because she's insane. Okay. Medical misdiagnosed trauma. My femur was by Dr. Hadawi and his partner in Bloomington. They said my leg was perfect. And they did this on purpose, okay? And it had 4 little things. I got this clump of bones that all went together, and my leg's about a 1/2 inch short. I got what they call asymmetrical hips. And this has caused me trauma for my whole life because I couldn't play basketball, I couldn't run, I can't jog. right now I have to do unbelievable exercise just to go up and down the steps. And I was a super achiever, right, in a lot of ways. Okay. Stop. Okay. These below that on the thing, and I'm going to put this in the description, but I'm going to put it in the live thing because people that come on late. Here's a list of all these traumas, and I will say, Darcy, I appreciate what you said, but you are not forgiven. You don't have to forgive people. What you have to do is put them aside and say, because every relationship you have in life is a negotiation. Is the benefit of this relationship better than the benefit of losing it? And there's people that are trolls that there's no benefit of reestablishing a relationship, but there's no reason for me to attack, right? And on the other side is when I'm saying a name or something, like I'm going to take down this YouTube thing, there's no names going to exist, right? I didn't use anybody's last name except for Dr. Hadawi because he cost me a lifetime of problems. It was malpractice. Okay. We can all resolve our traumas. We can basically get to a point when somebody brings up one of these things, we don't go berserk. We don't have a trigger. It's like me talking about my alcoholism. I could care less. I mean, people say, Andy, you're an alcoholic. I remember a girl I was dating, she goes, you're an alcoholic. And I go, so? I could care less. And she goes, I'm kind of proud that I'm an alcoholic because I had the system and the support system through Alcoholics Anonymous and other systems to resolve the problem and to become sober for 37 years. There's people that want to attack me after I say I'm a recovering alcoholic. It's funny. I used to experiment. I would sit there and talk in a video and say I'm a recovering alcoholic and see how many hate mails I get because I put my email up on every place and I put my phone number. Why do I do that? Because we're only as sick as our secrets. If we are hiding from people, that's kind of a secret. You got different types of dishonesty. Well, this is my thing, but I'm going to go into another video on how to recover from a trauma. Okay, and there's some really traumatized people on this wall. They're angry, they attack, they basically forgive me. I mean, golly, most of the members on Everyday Hobo, I'm thinking, you gave $25. Your damages is $25 or me ignoring you. The bigger problem was I ignored them, right? Because when they do kind of snarky things, I just ignore people. Why would I pay attention to a person? I had one guy say, I get really angry at these stupid people. That's why I attack them. And I said, but if you do that, you're being as stupid as they are. Okay, how do you deal with anybody that's really, you don't really know when they're attacking you? You just walk away. I mean, but don't get me wrong, they put a little burr in your brain because, did I do something? Okay, I'm going to make another video about how to recover from traumas. And this is the reason why I did this. I realized I was writing about how to deal with traumas, and that's the solution. And in AA, we say either you be part of the solution or you be part of the problem. Most people want to be a victim. They want to talk about all their freaking problems. That's part of the problem. Part of the solution is thinking of it. But you can't really know that you can get consulting or help from a person unless you know that they've kind of dealt with the same kind of problems. And my life is wonderful. Life is good. And I'm really grateful to be a recovering alcoholic. I'm grateful to have all these traumas. I'm grateful. Why? They made me a better man. But it doesn't make me a better man to talk to a person that I have to always worry that they got a landmine and they're going to attack me. Okay? I am much more vicious than most people would ever believe. Okay? I told a guy yesterday, I said, I've made looks at girls And they would never talk to me again after I made the look, because I can be so passionate. But love without passion is not love, okay? But you have to have passion, and you got to smile, and you got to be effervescent, you got to have charisma. And these are the things that make us a better person. But when you just take a shot to hurt another person, you have to really stop, okay? Okay, I'm going to stop this now. I'm Andy Lee Graham. I'm here and you're not. Why not? That's a really great question, right? But I hope I smile. I hope I'm effervescent. I hope I'm just the exact same person you see on camera when you meet me in person. And I am. I don't try to hide anything. I'm not, you're only as sick as your secrets. So secrets, when you have little things, or the bigger thing is, if you can be triggered easily to get angry, that's kind of the signal of a trauma. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. We have a Patreon link.